Hey guys, Don Rice here, and this is the almost completed left side panel. Paint and decals are in place. I haven't glued this on yet, obviously, so there's still a couple of steps that have to be taken first. And this is bent up out of some sheet aluminum, and that goes like right there, and so that this can go on that thing, and then geez, where are they? Here they are. And so here are some some way too goddamn small push rods, and so I made these. These are turned on the lathe out of some really dense wren shape. It's still lighter than aluminum, but reasonably dense and fairly strong, and these are going to get, I'm going to bolt these to the bottom of the control horns here on the throttle quadrant, and then they go forward and yada yada, never ends. Well, let's hope that's not true. But none of that's why I brought you here today. So the reason we have gathered here today is because I'm doing a different kind of a silicone mold. It's not really different. It's just a little bit different. This is going to be a one-part mold that gets cut into two parts, kind of. And so this dowel here is actually glued to one end of the component, and so I can't pull any of this stuff out. So I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to break some stuff, I think, and then start removing some of these Legos in order to gain access to the part. And the whole point of this particular build, and what makes it a little different than most of my other molds that I've shown you before, is that this was all poured at once. The reason for this wood up on top, so this was glued to the actual part, and then these pieces were glued to the dowel, and then they rested on top of the Legos, all for the purpose of dangling the actual part, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5/10 of an inch above the floor here, and so that silicone would go all the way around it. And so now what I have is a part with a single pour. I filled up this entire cavity, and I brushed silicone into the nooks and crannies of the part itself. And the single pour now has completely 100% encapsulated my part. And so the plan here, which makes this one a little different than most of my other molds, is that I'm going to slice. I'm gonna create a slice right down through the middle of this thing, and until I hit the actual part. And the idea is that you can then fold the silicone apart and get my part out of there. And potentially, hopefully, the plan anyway, is to be able to do exactly the same thing with the parts that I make using this mold. So I can feel the part in there. I'm already up against it. Alright, we will look in there. Ooh, I can see some metal. So the part in there is something that I turned on. I probably should have used some kind of release agent on the Lego on the base here, but I didn't because I'm an idiot and I always forget something. Alright, so using a scalpel here, and silicone cuts really easy, especially when you're kind of pulling it apart. It cuts nice. Alright, so I can see the component in there, just little tendrils of silicone holding this together. Just going to very lightly kind of rub the scalpel on them. This should break quite easily. How's that? And we're there, almost there. Come on, release. There we go. Okay. This, by the way, is I don't want to call it a flashlight. It's a cockpit light. So there were at least 2 of them inside the cockpit of the Corsair. Could have been as many as 4. All kind of depends on what you want to believe. And so this is where the end where the lens would be, and the light bulb facing that, to the left, shining a light that way. And so the purpose of the dowel here is that this creates kind of a cone funnel shape. Where is it? Into which I can pour resin. So I can pour resin in there, and I can make resin flashlights. Not flashlights, cockpit lights. And the nice thing about the silicone is it folds right back up and mates to itself perfectly. I mean, you can barely even tell that there's a cut line on this wall. That's where I cut these things apart. So I'm going to let this thing cure for another day before I start dumping epoxy into it. But there you go. That's another way, a third way, fourth way, I don't even know. But it's another way that you can mold up parts in a reasonably simple fashion. And in this case, leave yourself with a fill hole, and you don't have to actually go through the process of making a 2-part mold. The reason I did this, by the way, is because there's a lot of inverted edges and stuff there. So see if this will focus in. There are grooves here, and this has some depth to it as well. And so I don't know, just seemed like the easiest way to do this. Does that focus? I don't know. Okay. Later.